video. It'll be available on Apple or Spotify, however you get your podcast. But that is the Hoops Rehab Show. And as always, everybody, we want you to comment. We want you to be interacting with us while we are live. So if you're streaming from YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram, please comment and we'll get it going in the show. All right, Eric, let's get it cracking. How was this game 5? Obviously, it was a blowout, but what did OKC show you?
Well, they showed me again and again that they're for real. They're finals bound, first time since 2012, I believe, when they played the Miami Heat. Obviously, those were the Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, James Harden days. And so SGA, Shai, showed me again. This is 11th 30-point plus performance of the playoffs, which is pretty amazing. And in what, 16 games, right? Because they played 4, 7, 5, if that equals 16.
Yep.
So MVP, sometimes there's an MVP awarded and that particular team goes out early or that player doesn't perform to an MVP level. But I think people that had any doubts who the MVP was this year, I think he's kind of showing them like, hey, man, it was mine and I'm going to lead my team to a championship. And so Minnesota obviously didn't show up to play. That game 4 loss was a heartbreaker for them. And, obviously they had planned to win, I assume. But, I mean, from the get-go, I think we pretty much knew what the result was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, looked like Minnesota right off the bat had their bags packed. They're ready for, what, school being out. But they definitely didn't come to play. They were missing every shot. I mean, just a terrible first quarter. Scored 9 points, and that was pretty much an indication that they were not going to have a chance in this game. And we've talked about it all playoffs long. OKC's defense is probably one of the most elite defenses I've seen in a long time in a playoff stretch, right? The way they can just smother a team and then throw 10 deep and just keep the legs fresh, keep coming with guys that body people constantly. Sometimes they can even have the players that are undersized play big and they dominate those bigs, which is like something that you don't really see out of a team, especially players like Caruso and Lou Dort that just like really get into the body of players and do not give up space. And you saw it all series long, especially on display tonight.
Yeah, man. Game 3 was definitely an anomaly where Minnesota obviously was the one game that they won. And so the other 4 games, it was pretty much just OKC's defense pretty much suffocating Minnesota. They really, at the end of the day, had no answers. Game 3, they got really hot, and those things happen in a playoff series or run. And like to your point, they just made life hell for the Minnesota Stars. And Edwards was just not getting anything easy. He wasn't able to drive as freely into the paint as he did the first 2 rounds. And then they picked him apart on offense too. The head of the snake, SGA, just his smooth self. They couldn't unsmooth him, if that makes any sense. Like, he was getting to his spots, right? You would have been screaming all series long that they got to make it uncomfortable for him. They send multiple guys. They got to pick him up full court. And again, we know that those are things that probably teams thought about, but I don't think I really saw that. And so, maybe it just wasn't in Minnesota's, wheelhouse and strategy. But they never really adjusted to.
I was disappointed that they never put pressure on him in any type of way. Like they never tried to. I mean, there was maybe game 3 where he was off and they kind of sped him up just a tad, where they would jump the screen, they would jump the pick and roll and really kind of create pressure. But other than that, they really didn't do much. And you can talk all you want about him being a free throw merchant. He shot 4 free throws tonight, right? And he still had 34 points. He was able to slither through the basket, like left hand, right hand layup. He's on the right side of the basket. lays it up his left hand. He's just so crafty, and how his ability to score. Obviously, he's an MVP for a reason, and there just wasn't much stopping him, right? I mean, he is what they call a bona fide stud.
He is, yeah. I mean, we've talked about it. He's not going to jump out the gym. He obviously is athletic, but he's not going to kill you with his athleticism. He's
For
just
sure.
crafty, as you mentioned a couple of times. Knows to get to his spots. Just super lethal from the mid-range game. And so, for those out there, in terms of just like worrying about the long ball, which he can do too, he's demonstrating that hey, there is still room, and there's still that's still something that can be in someone's game and be super effective. And so, of course, drawing contact. Only shot 4 free throws tonight, made all 4 of them. I mean, he goes up there and makes them too, so that's part of it as well.
Yep.
And just really, really couldn't be stopped all series long.
Yeah, definitely. And then just overall, like they are so deep, and I would say on the other, when you look at the Eastern Conference, right, there's some similarities between Indiana and OKC.
Yep.
Like in my opinion, they both are so deep that they can just bring in these fresh legs, right? So even our boy Cam Miller, right? He commented, "Young, fresh legs for OKC," and that's
No doubt.
exactly what you see on the nightly basis. And I think Indiana is one of those teams that can match that. They don't have the talent level I think OKC has, but they have a lot of those similar guys that can really just come out there, play as hard as possible, give their all for those 20 minutes that they're in the game, and then Indiana is just a much more like up-paced type of team, but OKC is right there on offense as well. So they're similar in that way. I'm not saying Indiana's going to win it just yet, even though I know Eric kind of
Wink,
already
wink.
said it. We get a little wink on that one, but I feel like they're similar styles a little bit, and it'll be kind of interesting to see if that is a matchup down the stretch.
And the odds are that is going to be the matchup. Obviously, we'll talk about it more when it's official. But yeah, I think it's going to be one of those like finals if it comes to tuition. That like other than being the finals and obviously going all out, like we're going to see semi like fresh legs for those teams.
Yeah.
Let's say if Indiana finishes it off tomorrow, they both are going to have about a week off, and then as you mentioned, they're both very deep, and so. That'll be a very contrasting style with the team being very proficient and prolific offensively, and then one pretty damn good offensively and just obviously amazing defensively. So it'll be not your big market darling finals. Again, if we get there, we're probably jumping ahead, but it will just from a basketball standpoint, it will be interesting to see.
For sure. I wanted to get into this question here on YouTube by Dat Meskin JB. If y'all was the Wolves coach, is there anything you would have done differently?
Kind of talked about it, but
we've kind of talked about it, and I've kind of like preached it throughout the series. Is just I would have tried to make anybody but Shai beat me, and I would have thrown a lot of doubles at him. I would have tried to pressure from more of a full court, 3/4 of the court pressure throughout when he's dribbling it up there, just to get him more tired, right? Like whether or not that's going to work the whole game, but just keeping pressure constantly on him, I think could have sped his game up. Because if you look at Shai, he's probably the smoothest, most controlled player in the NBA right now, as far as a guard. Like he's not just so quick or he's not so herky jerky. He's just like a freaking smooth criminal out there. And I would have tried to pressure him. I would have just tried to put as much pressure onto him as much as possible and let the other guys beat me. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo that, thanks, Dat Messick and JB. But yeah, like if I know they probably have their principles and they were like we mentioned, they were a top talk about Minnesota, we're a top 10 defensive and offensive team. The only team in the NBA that was that. And so they probably had their principles on defense, but when you have one guy tearing you up like they did, I think flying at him with another guy would have been better or more suited for them. Hey, I mean, the Chet and Williams did a hell of a job too, so it's not like it was all SGA.
Yeah.
But if you take the ball out of his hands and you let Caruso, which again he's been really nice offensively, if he beats you shooting threes, and so be it. And also I think Minnesota was just not getting easy baskets. And if you're going half court on this team, as you saw, that's just not going to happen. So I think with them being a little bit more aggressive on defense would have potentially caused more turnovers, making easier baskets more possible. And then Ant on the offensive side, I think they were settling for jumpers. OKC was baiting him into doing so. And Minnesota's not a good 3-point shooting team. And I think some more action with Ant getting to the basket, getting to the free throw line, kicking to more so open guys, I think would have gone a long way. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's very obvious who the better team was. I don't know what exactly could have been done to change it. Other than maybe doing what we spoke about and maybe extending the series a bit. But yeah, that's kind of what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I thought at some point they should have gone a little bit smaller and got Rudy out of there a little bit more. And there was a time where I thought, at least going into game 3 or 4, that they would have switched the lineup a little bit. Maybe got Naz Reid in there, or even gone smaller with Randall at the 5. Just to see if they can speed up the game a little bit and just change what they were doing against OKC. But hey, I mean, I think either way, OKC was going to win the series regardless. And they were, I mean, I was just thinking about going into the playoffs, how everybody seemed to underestimate what they were this year. Right, they're they're the number 1 seed. They won the most games. They got a good defense. They got a good offense, but nobody's really picking them to win the championship. And after seeing these playoff series, you can say obviously they're the most stacked team, and their defense is definitely number 1 defense in the league.
Yeah, I think we talked about it early in the playoffs, how whatever it's fan base, the media, we tend to favor those like veteran teams in the playoffs. And so we tend to say, OKC's too young. They haven't been there before. They're going to fall somewhere in the playoffs. But they've proven, no matter who is in front of them, that they belong. And now they're in the finals, and they are, going to be big favorites regardless of who they face. And, you know what? And they have gone through, like last year, they went through heartbreak, and sometimes it takes that to kind of pull forward or move forward the next season. And that's really what they've done.
Sure. Yeah. They're pretty incredible. Obviously on their way to the finals.
Defense, man. That's it wins championships, right?
What wins championships?